Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Joanna Butler, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Navy is Captain Lisa Batchelor. This evening, we are honoured to acknowledge Dr. Susan Newhouse and Dr. Karen Bird, members of the Council of the Australian War Memorial. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Returned and Services League of Australia and the RSL and Services Clubs Association. We welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by visitors to the memorial and students on behalf of Yarran Lee Primary School, Mount Gravatt, Queensland, and Cairns Hinterland Steiner School, Corunda, Queensland. If you are able, please stand and join in singing the national anthem. Students, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where family and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Private Thomas William Sherlock. Thomas Sherlock was born in January 1892 at Higher Walton near Preston in Lancashire, England. He was the third of 13 children born to John and Mary Ann Sherlock, though only 8 of their children survived beyond their 10th birthdays. The family lived in Higher Walton for Thomas's childhood and early adulthood. He and his siblings attended St Aidan's School near where the family lived on School Lane. Thomas Sherlock's father John died in 1902, leaving Mary Ann to care for her children alone. After finishing school, Sherlock found work as a weaver in a cotton mill near Preston. He was also an active member of the North Lancaster Regiment of the Territorial Force. In 1911, aged 19, Sherlock decided to emigrate to Australia, arriving in Brisbane on the 1st of September. His mother and 7 surviving siblings all remained in Lancashire. In Brisbane, Sherlock found work as a labourer and moved to No. 2 Sidon Street in South Brisbane. Sherlock enlisted in the Australian Imperial Force on the 19th of August 1914, shortly after the declaration of the First World War. He was assigned to the 9th Infantry Battalion in the rank of private and began training outside Brisbane. Sherlock departed Brisbane a month later, embarking in HMAT Omra on the 24th of September 1914. Omra made its way as part of the first convoy to Egypt, where the AIF was to undertake further training during the Northern Hemisphere's winter. He arrived in Egypt in early December and continued to train at Mena Camp outside Cairo. On the 1st of March 1915, the battalion went by ship to the Greek island of Lemnos, where the Allied armies were preparing for the planned attack on the Gallipoli Peninsula. The involvement of the Ottoman Empire in the war threatened British interests in the Middle East, particularly shipping routes in the Suez Canal. Landing troops on the Gallipoli Peninsula was part of a wider British naval operation, which aimed to open the Dardanelles Strait, leading to the Turkish capital of Constantinople, and force the Ottoman Empire to withdraw from the war. The land attack was planned for the 25th of April. Sherlock formed part of the covering force for the Anzac landing, and so was one of the first ashore at around 4:30 a.m. on the 25th of April. The battalion spent the next week establishing their position on the Anzac beachhead before being withdrawn out of the firing line. Between the landing and the move to bivouacs, the battalion had sustained 500 casualties, including 242 men missing in action. One of these was Private Thomas William Sherlock, who had been wounded in the foot and taken prisoner by the Ottomans. Sherlock was transferred off the peninsula to Burleby Hospital in Constantinople. Although he received good treatment in the hospital, his wound became gangrenous by early June. Thomas Sherlock died of septic poisoning on the 14th of June, 1915. He was 23 years old. Thomas Sherlock was buried at Haydar Pasha Cemetery in Constantinople. His name is also listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, among almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. His photograph is displayed today by the Pool of Reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private Thomas William Sherlock, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them. Lest we forget.
We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over, but in Australia they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of the director, staff and volunteers, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support during the memorial's development project. We wish you all a very pleasant evening.